welcome to NTD News. I'm Cindy Drucare. President Donald Trump and Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin spoke briefly to the press as they headed into their talks on the sidelines of the G20 Summit in Osaka, Japan.
This is the first official meeting between the two leaders since their Helsinki summit almost a year ago.
We look forward to spending some very good time together. A lot of very positive things going to come out of the relationship. So, Vladimir, thank you very much.
Putin responded briefly. Before their official meeting, one reporter asked Trump if he'd asked Russia not to meddle in U.S. elections. Relations between the two countries have been tense for years, worsening after Russia annexed the Crimea from Ukraine in 2014 and backed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the Syrian war. Trump has sought better relations with Putin to tackle issues including his goal to rein in North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
His representatives, my representatives, we have many things to discuss, including trade and including some disarmament, some little protectionism perhaps in a very positive way, and we're going to discuss a lot of different things.
This was the first of the two most anticipated sideline meetings on Trump's agenda. Tomorrow he's scheduled to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping to discuss trade amid rising tensions between the world's biggest economies. According to the White House, Trump's decision on whether to impose new tariffs on a $300 billion list of Chinese imports will depend on the outcome of the Saturday meeting.
President Trump received a warm welcome from Japanese supporters outside his hotel during the G20 Summit. Our NTD reporter was there to find out why they hold him in such high regard.
At the Imperial Hotel Osaka, President Trump's motorcade arrived to a crowd waiting across the street. Members of the group said they were there to show support for Trump and hope that the United States and Japan can build a strong relationship. Trump has put in a very strong positive force toward world peace. I can feel from my heart that he cares about the future. Because of him, the world's leaders are gathering here. The supporters said they feel Trump is a down-to-earth president that doesn't pay lip service and is genuinely good. He's really for all of us and for the world, and he makes a great president of the United States. That's what I believe. Trump met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Osaka today ahead of the G20 meeting. Abe showed him a map with locations of Japanese auto investments in the United States, for which Trump thanked him. Japanese and United States officials will meet next month to speed up progress toward a trade deal, but have not yet set a target date. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
The U.S. Supreme Court today agreed to decide whether President Trump acted lawfully when he moved to end DACA. That's the program that gives temporary protection from deportation to illegal immigrants who are brought into the country as children.
Trump moved to rescind DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, in 2017. It was implemented in 2012 by his predecessor, Barack Obama. 3 lower court rulings blocked his move. The Supreme Court's 9 judges have now taken up the Trump administration's appeal of the rulings. DACA currently protects about 700,000 illegal immigrants, mostly Hispanic young adults often called dreamers, from deportation. It also provides them with work permits, but not a path to citizenship. The Trump administration has argued that Obama exceeded his constitutional powers when he bypassed Congress to create the program. The legal question that the Supreme Court faces is whether the administration properly followed a federal law in Trump's plan to end DACA. The law, called the Administrative Procedure Act, stipulates the way that government can establish new regulations. DACA has remained in effect despite Trump's efforts to rescind it. The court will hear arguments and issue a ruling in the case during its next term, starting October.
The head of Homeland Security is hoping to capitalize on the bipartisan energy that got an emergency funding bill passed last night. NTD's Holly Kellum has more on what he's asking Congress to fix.
The yeas are 305, the nays are 102. The motion is adopted.
The head of Homeland Security, Kevin McAleenan, thanking Congress today for going above and beyond what the White House asked for. The House last night passed a $4.6 billion emergency funding bill to care for the large influx of migrants at the southern border. But McAleenan is also asking Congress to do more, specifically changing the laws that lure people to the U.S., then keep them here once they get in.
The time to address the fundamental drivers of this crisis is now.
Those fixes are holding families together till their asylum claims are decided, allowing people to apply for asylum outside the U.S., and raising the standard for people to claim fear of persecution in their home country.
This allows for migrants arriving at the border to stay for years in the United States, even if they have a very weak claim.
In the past 3 weeks, McAleenan says the U.S. has seen a 25% drop in migrants after Mexico started deploying its National Guard.
We look forward to increasing deployments of Mexico's National Guard over the coming weeks.
He also says Homeland Security is planning to expand the Remain in Mexico program. The program requires asylum seekers arriving from Mexico to wait there while their claims are processed.
These initiatives are making an impact.
Tweeting from Japan last night, President Trump also called on Congress to fix U.S. immigration laws. Secretary McAleenan says he hopes that the president will sign the emergency funding bill early next week. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
President Trump pressured Mexico into securing its southwest border with Guatemala. NTD's Miguel Moreno has an update on Mexico's fulfillment of that agreement.
People and goods flowed through this border all day long. Africans, Indians, and many others are crossing into Mexico from Guatemala illegally, an influx of immigrants that Mexico promised it would curb to prevent further illegal crossings into the United States. But across the Suchiate River, one of the busiest border crossings, there is little sign of the 6,000 troops the Mexican government said it would deploy to avoid escalating tariffs. Epoch Times reporter Charlotte Cupbertson has been down at the border observing the guardless crossing.
There's no troops along the river. They haven't been here. Officials are saying that they are coming. They don't know when and they don't know how many.
National Guards did set up a checkpoint in Tapachula, 25 miles from the Suchiate River. Mexican President Andrés Obrador said the guards will be formed by June 30th. Meanwhile, Mexico's Secretary of Foreign Affairs said the 6,000 troops were already deployed. But so far, immigration facilities are swamped by the flow. This has made documents to travel through Mexico legally difficult to get. And currently, Central Americans are not the majority at the Immigration Detention Center in Tapachula.
There's about 5,000 people that are being held there, and the majority are Haitians and Africans. We were outside, and there were just hundreds and hundreds of Africans and Haitians outside waiting.
Some Haitians moved to South America years ago and are now making the trek to Mexico. The vast majority are headed to the United States. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Chinese residents reporting that police are doing random cell phone checks on streets and at subway stations in major cities. This has led to the discovery of an app that experts say can see everything on the phone.
The person shooting the video can be heard saying, "Don't come to Dongzhimen. It's very strict in here. The police are checking everything on the phone." Reports of similar experiences are rampant on Chinese social networks. This post says, "They can scan everything in your phone directly. How far is this from them scanning your brain?" Chinese residents told NTD that the police are mainly looking for content about the recent pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong, a topic banned in China. My kid's phone was checked. It was very quick. Many people were checked. They're looking for things about the Hong Kong protests. They will check if you have VPN or if you're browsing foreign websites. The Chinese regime uses an internet firewall to ban its citizens from browsing a list of foreign websites. Google, Facebook, Twitter, and most major news websites are on this list. VPN is a software some Chinese use to cross over the firewall. It doesn't stop there. Chinese netizens report that when police check phones, they install an app called MS Socket at the same time. A French cybersecurity expert who tweets under a pseudonym published his research about the app on the blog aggregator website medium.com. And he found out MS Socket is asking for a lot of dangerous permissions to read your call log, your contacts, your SMS, your calendar, your SD card, disable the lock screen, access your location, install a new app without your consent. He concludes in his article, "This is sick and this is not a fictional scenario. This is the reality." Reports of the app being installed in China date back as early as 2016. Information pulled from the app was previously used as police evidence against a blogger. Beijing police station has published a statement denying having tracked people's phones. It asks people to not believe in rumors. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
It's theft on an unimaginable scale, China's penetration of the U.S. high-tech sector. NTD's Kitty Wong spoke with a member of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee about where the U.S. weaknesses lie and how to make it stronger.
In recent years, the Chinese communist regime has not only strengthened its internal control, but also exerted its influence around the world. Using the authoritarian model, it forces Chinese companies, researchers, and others to act on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, which has U.S. Senator Mark Warner very worried.
All this has set the stage for the Chinese government to aggressively display every lever of power to service the state, and at the same time exploit the openness of our society to take advantage and to take economic advantage.
One way is by stealing intellectual property via international students placed at colleges and universities across the United States. According to the Institute for International Education, almost 1/3 of all international students in the U.S. were from China in the 2017 to 2018 academic year.
Is that the Chinese spy services are literally threatening Chinese families to say, if your son or daughter does not come back and come back with intellectual property, you family will be put in jeopardy.
Last year, the U.S. Congress passed the Foreign Investment Risk Review Modernization Act to protect America's national security. Warner expressed his support and said he hoped to strengthen it further.
Chinese entities are now using in terms of venture capital investment, non-control sectors that disproportionately are falling into areas of great technological advancement that we need review on.
Warner also proposed anti-money laundering laws and legislation targeting other financial crimes, part of which is aimed at shell companies used by China to acquire or control U.S. firms. Security experts believe that it is imperative the U.S. strengthen its protection in the high-tech field through legislation.
But there clearly is a global trend towards authoritarianism, and it's backed by these technologies. And so to the extent to which we have to encourage our own development of these technologies as liberating and as allowing freedom of expression.
In an area famous for cutting-edge technology, who knew there was still an apricot farm struggling to keep its roots in the Silicon Valley? NTD's Eileen Eng explains the controversy.
There has been a long-time dispute over the land shared between two neighbors, Sunnyvale Heritage Museum and an apricot farm. Now the museum is requesting to City Council to build a high-tech exhibit and research library at the back. That means they would have to remove some fruit trees. Both are city-owned, but there have been some disagreements about how much land each side should devote to the public.
We have been a tech center now far longer than what we were an agricultural center. You have to have balance.
About 850 trees grow on the 10-acre orchard surrounding the museum. These are the 6 trees that are to be removed so that this museum can extend back by about 1,600 square feet. Charlie Olson, the orchard's caretaker, first started planting with his coworkers in 1977. Since then, he has been tending to the trees for over 42 years.
This is a lot of work to farming this orchard, growing a tree like this. It's a lot of work to it, more than people realize. So it's so simple to bulldoze them down. They could bulldoze this orchard down in 3 hours if they wanted to.
He said part of the reason why he's working hard to keep the orchard is because of how rare it is. These are Blenheim, or royal apricots, famous for their deep orange flesh and tangy sweet taste. They are not grown anywhere else but California. In addition, few growers are left, so Blenheims are quickly disappearing. The 84-year-old is worried that they may not stop at 6 trees because he knows there is a pattern of expansion as the orchard once covered more acres.
It was 13, but these buildings and these tents and stuff took up 3 acres, and now it's down to 10 acres. And I'm afraid if you keep chipping at it, there won't be any acres.
But what if the museum wants to show the history of Sunnyvale, including modern technology?
You can do another museum, all computer, all high-tech, all scientific, and you can do a beautiful job of that. And do it someplace else.
Olson said he will be attending the City Council meeting when the topic is brought up again on July 16th. Eileen Eng, NTD News, Sunnyvale, California.
The iconic silhouette on London skyline, Tower Bridge, turns 125 years old this weekend. NTD's Jane Worrell spoke with the modern-day bridge master and discovered his passion.
It's a fairy tale castle on the river.
For Chris Early, the modern-day bridge master, his enthusiasm for Tower Bridge is clear.
This sounds a bit cliched, but I do regularly hear my wife refer to the bridge as my other wife. I am 100% in love with it.
And with love comes duty.
Protecting it, but also promoting it. So it's this huge responsibility that we take very, very, very seriously. But on an emotional level, I love the thing.
A symbol of Victorian engineering and an essential river crossing. Although over the years its function has expanded with modern-day additions like this exhibition and glass walkway, its main function remains the same.
We've added all these little extras on to it as the bridge has, gathered in fame and popularity. But ultimately, the bridge still raises for river traffic. It does exactly what it was designed to do, and that's something that we did back in 1894. We still do today.
In Victorian times, it was all about steam, of course, but now the raising of the bascules, that's each half of the bridge, is powered by electricity. While it's a typical backdrop for tourist snaps in London, for many it's a lot more than that.
I always call it my bridge when I see it on TV. That there's this deep emotional link, and even people whose grandparents or great-grandparents or great-granduncles have worked here, they still maintain this connection and then look at it as if it's part of their own history.
Tower Bridge took 8 years to build, and it was officially opened in 1894 by the Prince and Princess of Wales. Now 125 years later, and the bridge still gives way to vessels, on average about 3 times a day. If you're walking past, you might just be lucky enough to catch the moment the bridge opens, just like it used to in 1894.
It's almost the authentic version of standing back from, a Disney castle, isn't it? People are just utterly in love with it.
The oppressive heat wave affecting Europe all week reached new heights today in France. And with the extreme weather comes extreme measures. NTD's David Vivez reports from France.
Today, temperatures in southern France hit 45 degrees Celsius or 113 degrees Fahrenheit, a new record in the country. French Health Minister Agnès Buzyn told hospitals, retirement homes and schools to prepare. As a result, nearly 4,000 schools are closed across the country.
Nous avons depuis l'année dernière, c'est-à-dire depuis mai 2018, une zone réfrigérée comme cette pièce ici dans toutes les écoles. Mais là, nous étions quand même sur un cap inédit, historique, puisqu'on attend 45 degrés à Nîmes cet après-midi. Donc là, il était quand même de l'ordre de la santé publique.
In the French capital, life has slowed down in the intense heat. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo activated a 3-level action plan, which includes setting up cool rooms in municipal buildings, opening pools for late-night swimming, and installing extra drinking fountains.
Bouteille d'eau, je sais bien. En plus, c'est clair que à cette période-là de la journée, c'est pas l'optimal, quoi. Après, je résiste plutôt bien à la chaleur, pas forcément mes collègues, donc.
All life seems to slow down under the oppressive heat. Restaurants are unusually empty, even as some managers try to stay optimistic.
On a un peu d'activité qui baisse parce que il fait trop chaud et les gens ne viennent pas spécialement en terrasse. Mais on a quand même un avantage, c'est que comme on a installé des brumisateurs l'année dernière.
The mayor's action plan also restricts daytime work.
Ils sont embêtants avec ça parce qu'on a dû commencer à 7h du matin et on finit à 13h. Ça c'est assez embêtant, on peut pas travailler plus. C'est les lois ici en France, en Europe. On est d'accord qu'on est payé pareil, mais c'est pas... Le chantier il avance pas. Du coup on fait que des demi-journées.
According to the French weather agency, the intense heat could last until late July.
A dramatic rescue of a humpback whale off the coast of Queensland, Australia. We have the video.
SeaWorld staff and a marine animal release team took on the risky mission to rescue a nearly 30-foot whale in Australia. The whale was spotted around 8 a.m. yesterday off the coast of Queensland, thrashing to free itself from a shark's net. Freeing the stressed giant did not make for an easy task, as rough sea conditions on the Gold Coast complicated the rescue. But after 3 hours of dangerous struggle, the animal swam free again, with only superficial injuries, and is expected to make a full recovery. The Queensland government is now discussing alternatives to the usage of shark nets to protect its marine wildlife, especially during whale migration seasons.
Thousands of multicolored solar-powered lights bring the California hillsides alive. Check out the Field of Light exhibition.
The exhibition, created by British artist Bruce Munro, is made up of 58,000 stemmed glass globes lit by fiber optics.
I think it's amazing. It's like walking through a liquid Monet painting.
Visitors wandering through the exhibit, which spans 15 acres of rolling hills, as lights dance and change colors in the breeze.
You know, to me it looks like a nervous system of the body that's kind of running through a whole area. It's just really neat, and it's really neat for my daughter to see it too, and for her to experience it, and you know, just kind of take it all in. It's great.
The exhibition is Munro's biggest to date and is open now until January 5th.
And that's all for today's NTD News. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Cindy Drucare.